Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday evening, and that means it's match preview time, and it's a big one this week in Sky Bet League One. The Gills are heading up north to Yorkshire to take on fallen giants Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsbrough, one of the iconic football stadiums in the country. Myself and Boz will be travelling up. Looking forward to that. Be a first trip to Sheffield Wednesday's ground for myself, so really looking forward to it. Might take my boots, such as the injury crisis apparently within the Gills squad at the moment. But unfortunately, I still won't be able to sign on because we're under an embargo that's not an embargo if you read the club statement that's come out in the last few hours. Anyway, enough of that. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Jon Fittall this evening, who's a Sheffield Wednesday fan, and he's going to tell us all we need to know about the Owls and Darren Moore's squad as we look forward to the 3 p.m. kickoff at the weekend. So first of all, Jon, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Like I say, looking forward to Saturday. Maybe not the football, but maybe more the trip to the stadium at the moment. But you never know. Could be a result if we can pinch something that kickstarts our season. And talking of that, looking at the comparative form of both of the sides, last 6 in the league, Sheffield Wednesday's pretty good reading, to be fair. There's no defeats. It's 4 draws and 2 wins in the last 6 in League One, so it's 10 points from 18 available. Gills have got half of that tally, 5 points over the same period, which is a single victory, couple of draws and 3 defeats before that. But we are unbeaten in our last 3, and we probably should have had 9 points from the last 9 on offer. We're 2-0 up and contrived to lose a 2-0 lead in a final 5 or 6 minutes against Bolton a few weeks ago. And then we did everything but score at home to Accrington in our final league game before the break for the FA Cup last weekend. In terms of home and away form, again, it's pretty solid for the Owls. It's 11 points from 18 at Hillsbrough over the last half dozen. That's 3 wins, 2 draws and a solitary loss. Gills, slightly better on the road than overall, 6 points from 18. And that's a single win again. There's 3 draws and a couple of defeats, but it is only 1 loss in the last 5 on the road for Steve Evans' men. So if you're looking for positives and silver linings, that is it. Jon, your squad though, it's fairly good, isn't it? It's probably championship standard. I've listed a few people. I was on the Wednesday Till I Die podcast on Tuesday evening, and I think the Harrogate game was going on at the time, and they mentioned that they'd made 10 changes, but you still had the likes of Hunt, Luongo, Berahino, Shadipo all starting, all players that would probably get in the Gills 11. No, that's a lie. All players that are definitely getting the Gills 11. And you won 4-0. So squad depth doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Would that be fair?
I think so, yeah. I think many Wednesday fans would acknowledge that this is a better squad than we had last season, and possibly even the last 2 seasons. When you look at some of those players we were able to bring in on Tuesday who simply need minutes, they've not been able to get in the side. The depth there is incredible, really. There's a few. I think Luongo's been out injured. He's been a big miss. It's good to see him back. I think he walks into the team personally for that balance.
Remember him at Swindon years ago as a youngster, and he was really highly rated before he got his move to QPR. He's always been technically very good and someone who likes to get on the ball and keeps you ticking over. Is that what you've seen in his time at Hillsbrough?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, his time at Hills was being tempered by injuries a lot. I don't think he's had issues up until this point, and it seems to be. I'm sure every fan of every club says the same, but we seem to be hit by the injury curse quite a lot. And he's one that's barely had a run of games at any point, but when he has played, he's always looked very strong, very combative, brings that sort of resilience that maybe we lack at times without him. But also good on the ball. We had the stand-in for him last year was very limited on the ball, and it was a really noticeable absence really in that relegation battle. But now he's back. Maybe it throws. That's probably the one area where we've got real selection headaches. I think centre midfield is our strongest area, with the likes of Bannon and Adeniran and Wing. Deli Bashir has come through as well and to look strong. Byers, to be fair to him, he's not played much, but he has looked good when he's played. So now they're all fit. That's a genuine selection headache, and possibly why we've switched to a 3-5-2 recently. But in terms of the overall squad, I think we're very short at centre back, which makes it even more surprising. We've gone to a back 3 really. We've got a left winger at the minute, sort of playing centre back. We've got Palmer, who's primarily a right back, playing centre back, and we've got Dunkley, who up to the last 3 games has really struggled. But come into a bit of form.
Because without Sam Hutchinson this weekend, I think, aren't you? Have I read that somewhere?
Yeah.
I did write him down as obviously another one who's a very good player. I was at Chelsea as a kid, but yeah, I think I read somewhere today that he's going to be missing.
He is, yeah, and so's Iorfa, who although I would say has not been at his best this season, is probably key because of the pace, that covering pace he brings. It's really important, and without it, we do look a little bit slow. So yeah, both of those are out, and we did have Gibson as well in on loan from Everton, who's also out injured. So very light at centre back, which could be a bit of a problem at the weekend. But actually, the makeshift back three have looked quite strong in the games they've played together.
It sounds similar to Cheltenham. I spoke to a Cheltenham fan this time last week ahead of our game with them in the Cup, and he said that all three of their first choice centre backs were out injured. They had a 16-year-old on the bench, and we couldn't beat them either, so wouldn't be too worried. But yeah, obviously last time out in the league was 3-0 at Hillsbrough against, up until about a month ago, had been a very good Sunderland side, a Sunderland side that for me at least seemed to have turned the corner in terms of really looking the part in League One. I mean, they've been down here for far too long now from their fans' perspective. And I speak to quite a few of their fans. I think generally they're quite switched on and understand that they're in this division for a reason, and they don't have a God-given right to get out of it. And I suppose it's probably a similar situation for Owls fans. You are a massive club in a little pond, let's be honest. You should be, top half Championship at worst. But historically, I remember growing up in the 90s, you're a Premier League team. Obviously, for one reason or another, that's all gone a bit wrong in the last few years, and you find yourself mixing it with the likes of Gillingham and Accrington and all that sort of thing, the proper little football teams. But how impressive was that win?
To be honest, I think it was good. I think many are saying it's performance of the season. I think you could argue maybe Wigan away was slightly better for the fact that Wigan were stronger in the game. 3-0 might be slightly harsh on Sunderland, but we certainly deserved the win. I think we were relatively comfortable once we got to 2-0. It was very comfortable, which is what we've really lacked in the games before. We've not put teams to bed. Wimbledon away, we were sort of 2 up and absolutely cruising and managed to crumble to a 2-2. And I think in a lot of games we've gone a goal up and not really put the foot to the pedal and gone after teams. That we've talked about the squad. The quality there is there for all to see, but it's been very cautious. So I think Sunderland, it was refreshing to see that we took the lead early. We kept going after more goals. Survived a couple of scares at 1-0, to be honest. It could easily have gone 1-1. But after 2-0, we sort of took control of the game, and we've not been doing that. So that was refreshing. I think that was the most pleasing aspect. Obviously, they're a promotion rival. We expect to be sort of pushing for the playoffs, and so do they. So from that point of view, it was a big win. But I think it was the manner of the win. It was the attacking approach that we've not really seen. We've not been able to get the more creative players onto the pitch. And I think it was a slightly more attacking lineup, and it paid off.
Yeah, because it's not like you're not blessed with attacking options. I know I wrote a piece for my blog during the summer, and I did like a key player per club, and I said Lee Gregory straight away for Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, he's done it for plenty of years now for Millwall in the Championship, and he's still got, he was never blessed with out and out pace anyway, so it's not like he can lose that. But he's similar to like Teddy Sheringham was years ago. I think that the first half a yard's always been in his head, and he's been very clever with his movement, and he seems to have settled in really well. And then obviously Saido Berahino, talked to me about him, because that was a huge signing in the summer. It comes with big risks, I can imagine, because he's not played in England for so long, and we know how it ended when he left England a few years ago. But he was tipped as a future England number 9, wasn't he? Or going back sort of 8-9 seasons when he was at West Brom and doing really well. And then I think it was a move to Tottenham, sort of collapsed, and then from there it unravelled a little bit. But I'd imagine that if you can get him fit and get him regular minutes, he's going to be a massive threat in this division. Have you seen at least sort of bits of that, or is he another one that struggled for game time because the likes of Lee Gregory are playing so well?
I think he's certainly one that's benefited. We've moved to 2 up front recently, and he had a couple of games in that. He's almost played as a 10 at times as well, but I can't say we've seen much.
Okay.
I think he's got a couple of goals now. He's second the other night in the cup. I think he's been overtaken really by Canberry, who seems to offer a little bit more in the work rate side of things. Out of possession, he's a bit more useful. And I think in both boxes he's a little bit more of a threat in the air. So where we're light on centre backs, I think that Canberra brings that sort of physicality to defending set pieces as well, where we have looked very fragile. But yeah, I think there's a player there. Obviously, there was a player there quite a few years ago. He's not kicked on. It seems like there might be a bit of an attitude there, which has held him back in the past. I'm not saying we've seen that, but I don't think we've seen that sort of Premiership quality that was there 5-6 years ago just yet. But I think Gregory has probably had similar frustrations until the last few weeks, where we're just not creating chances. There's not been, the last couple of games we've got a few goals in us, but there's not been an abundance of chances in matches. And Berahino and Gregory are both players that will thrive off of, penalty box opportunities or even in behind. And it's been quite slow, deliberate, patient build-up play. And where we've come up recently against sides that do sit in a little bit more, Sunderland aside, they do sit back. It's harder to break down, and neither of them have had a lot of goal scoring opportunities really. So I think he suffered through our style of play as well.
Sounds similar to us a little bit. I mean, ours has been sort of dictated because of injuries. We've had huge injury crisis. I mean, last Saturday against Cheltenham in the Cup, we ended up with just a sub goalie on the bench. Such was the low numbers. We only named 5 substitutes and 3 had to go on because of injuries, and they're likely all to be unavailable for the weekend. So we could be down to sort of 13, 14 professionals, including 2 goalies on Saturday afternoon. But you have to roll with it. That's the risk you take when you go for a squad that's more quality than quantity, because we don't have a big budget and there's no point pretending otherwise. I'm not sure it's as low as Steve Evans likes to tell everyone all the time, but I certainly don't think it's as big as the chairman likes to tell everyone quite a lot as well. It's probably somewhere in between. But yeah, so I mean, there wasn't much given away in our press conference this morning. Steve Evans spoke briefly. There was a couple of outtakes got put on the Twitter page, and then Jack Tucker, our centre half, come central defensive midfielder, because that's where he's had to play for the last month, commented a couple of times. But so it's going to be a little bit tricky in terms of, well, tricky in the sense that if we can get a couple back, I'm not sure what the team would be. But if those that weren't fit aren't fit, then it'll basically be the 11 that are left and the kids on the bench. But well, kids might even start. But a couple more names. Obviously, Barry Bannon's absolute class at this level. Mentioned him. Said Berahino, mentioned Lee Gregory. Jack Hunt, another one, decent level. Sam Hutchinson unavailable. Luongo Palmer. Callum Patterson, another very good player. Was at Cardiff, I think, in the Premier League. Has played in the Championship predominantly for the rest of his career. Bailey Peacock Farrell was Leeds #1 not so long ago. I think the big thing from Peacock Farrell so far this season is that penalty save against Rotherham. That was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there's decent penalty saves, and then there's that. And Lewis Wing as well, who's predominantly played, Middlesbrough in the Championship for the last 2 or 3 years. So there's no getting away from the fact that even if you have got injuries, it's going to be a massive task for the Gills coming up against, one of the big boys in League One. And obviously it's Darren Moore that's in charge. We know him quite well from his time with Doncaster. I thought he did a brilliant job until he took the reins at Hillsbrough. Thought he was probably slightly unfairly treated at West Brom when he got the sack, having nearly not kept them up, but he did a very good job when he took over late on in that season. How have the faithful reacted to Darren Moore and his methods?
To be honest, I think on the whole, the match-going fans are very much behind him. There's a frustration, definitely, that we feel. I think generally there's more in this squad than we're seeing. I think that a bit more front foot football, which we were promised. There is the opportunity to put some sides away here, sort of 3 or 4-0. It's not going to happen every week. We've got no God-given right to do that to anyone, despite the quality in the squad. Obviously, it's a very competitive league in that sense. But I think there certainly there's been games and there's been times in games where we could have gone for the jugular, and it's felt quite restrained, or it's felt a little bit like the substitutions came a little bit late. There was an opportunity to get on top of a side and we've let it go, or we've let them get back in a game. So I think there's hope that there'll be a little bit more of a ruthless streak to us. He seems to have, with the 3-5-2 change, he's gone for slightly more attacking wing backs now, which has put us more on the front foot. I think he's a popular figure. He's a very likeable guy. He's built a very competitive squad.
He's very affable and sort of easy to get on with. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and he says all the right things. I think generally, he says that, the sound bites you want your front foot football, you want, get the crowd on the feet kind of thing. But I'm not sure we've seen it yet. I think we've seen a slight shift from the playing out from the back obsessively to the point where it was putting us in trouble. I think we've gone a little bit more direct, which has helped us. And I think he's got a little bit of man management to do now. Now we've got the midfielders back fit. That is a bit of a problem in the sense. It's a good problem, no doubt, but there's a lot of quality in there, and there's a lot of players that would expect to play, and finding the right balance is going to be tricky. So I think on the whole, I'll write off the relegation side of things because we were a mess. He was off with COVID. The chairman's not helped at all. The squad was very weak in the Championship. So although he oversaw the relegation, I think most people are giving him a bit of a free pass on that one. But it's been a steady start. I know the recent form looks good, but there's a lot of frustration in there from fans. There's a lot of draws that we've thrown away leads in, or even Oxford at home where we threw away a draw in the last minute. A lot of late goals. There's a mental weakness, it feels like, in the squad that does create a lot of frustration. But there's some goodwill there. I think he's built a good squad. He seems quite popular. And if the Sunderland game is a sign of things to come, then I think everyone's sort of fully behind him.
Just get the handbrake off a little bit, then it seems, and
I think so.
fine.
I think so, because there's enough quality there. There's enough attacking quality to go after teams. We're actually our weakest, our defense is where we're lacking. So it's almost we're sort of sitting back, inviting pressure, and we're putting our, the players that are out of position, we're putting them under the most pressure, and they're caving. We are conceding soft goals. So it's trying to sort of almost, it's not an ideal solution, but outscore the opposition a little bit, go after them, get those 2 or 3 goals, which we've got the quality to get in a lot of games, and not invite the pressure so much by being a bit more aggressive. But we'll see. Sunderland was a step in the right direction, so fingers crossed.
Well, from our point of view, let's hope you're very passive and very defensive minded at the weekend, and Lee Gregory doesn't get a kick. But so you're Darren Moore now for the next couple of minutes. What do you think the Sheffield Wednesday 11 will be come 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon?
So I think we've got no Peacock Farrell, so Wildsmith will be in goal. Peacock Farrell's obviously on international duty, so I think he's our only one. I think he'll stick with a back 3. It's not my preferred choice, but it has looked. We've found some sort of system now, so I think it'll be Palmer, Dunkley, and Marvin Johnson filling in. We have got a young lad back from a loan spell who did look good in the Pizza Cup, but I can't see him changing that back 3. I think Patterson will play right wing back. He's not the ideal choice, but he does do a job. I don't think it's his best position.
I mean, he's always been a striker or a sort of makeshift centre half, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was a right back at one point, and he has played right back at times for Scotland, but I think late in games. But he's probably looked most effective for us as a 10, sort of arriving late in the box, because he will go after any cross. He is quite brave in that regard, but I think Hunt personally would be a better option, but it'll probably be Patterson again. Bannon, Adeniran and Wing have been the sort of midfield 3. It'd probably be those 3 again. Deli Bashir has looked impressive, and he looked good off the bench against Plymouth in the Cup again. But I think he'll start with Bannon, Adeniran and Wing. Corbiano, who's been playing left wing back. He's a young lad we've got on loan from Wolves, I think it is. Young Canadian international. He's one the fans have clamoured for. He's finally got in the side against Sunderland, got a goal and assist, looked very lively. So I think he'll start again. Not very strong defensively, but very good going forwards. And then Gregory and Canberra, I think it'll be up front. Mainly, I would personally probably go for Berahino, but I think Canberra and Gregory are both good in the air. Obviously, Oliver is very strong in the air for you. So set pieces where we are very weak, Canberra, Gregory and Dunkley can be those sort of that aerial presence. So I think for the balance of the team, he'll go with Canberra and Gregory up front.
Be interesting. And Gills, obviously, like I've already mentioned, got huge injury problems. We got no David Tatonda, the left back, he's out. Alex McDonald, he's out. They're both till Christmas, I think. So's Daniel Phillips. Ollie Lee broke his toe in the Pizza Cup, so he's out for 6 weeks. And then we lost Robbie McKenzie and Reece Bennett to injury last week in the Cup game against Cheltenham. Jackson also went off. Ryan Jackson, the first choice right back, but he was pictured on the training ground today doing the 2-minute silence for Remembrance Day. So I'm not sure whether that might not have been as bad as initially feared. And then hopefully we'll have Stuart O'Keefe and Mustafa Carriel back as well. Otherwise, we really are going to be down to very limited numbers. So hopefully, if we can get 2 or 3 of them back, I'd go Jamie Cumming in goal for us, Ryan Jackson at right back. It'll be Max Amar and Jack Tucker as a centre back with no Reece Bennett. It looks like it's going to be 18-year-old Bailey Akers playing at left back if Jackson plays. And then I think it'll probably be the diamond. So I think it'll be Stuart O'Keefe or Daniel Adseed at the base, depending on O'Keefe's fitness. Carl Dempsey from the right, Danny Lloyd from the left of that. And then Ben Reeves, he got his chance last week because of these injuries. Probably didn't do as much as he'd wished, but showed fleeting moments of good technical ability. So I think he'll probably play in the 10. And I'd imagine if Steve Evans has watched any of your games and goes along with what you've said about being a bit makeshift in defensive areas and not great defensively and at set pieces, then I'd imagine he'll go with for Dane Oliver and John Akindi as a front pair and just use them as 2 battering rams, for want of a better word. The bench essentially will be whoever's left. So we shall see. Right, that dreaded question before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Score prediction.
It's a tough one.
It is. Yeah, I was looking at your results, and there's a lot of teams that you've drawn with or had close games with that we've drawn with and had close games with, like Cambridge, Lincoln, Oxford, them types of teams. But it's I mean, if you look at it on paper, everyone should go, it's a home win. But football's not played on paper, is it? We know that.
No, and I've I think I touched upon before we started recording. I've always been Gills were always my sort of second team, so I've seen a lot of them, and I know that there's a style about Gillingham, and even more so probably under Evans, where they, no matter what the situation, they'll be hard to play against. And I don't think just this season alone, I don't think we've fared too well against those sides. So we've tended to fare better against the teams that come after us a little bit, open up, and we can play.
Them off,
yeah. So gut instinct says probably a 1-1, but looking at your sort of squad situation, I think we've got to be looking for a 2-0 here. So I'm going to go with 2-0 Wednesday.
Fair enough. I've actually gone 1-1. I don't think there it is there. I've written it down. And I've written for Dane Oliver, he's due one. I think he's on his longest goal drought of the season so far, which is 4 games, which is relatively long for Big V because he's been superb since he came in at the start of last season, and he's got 25 goals in all competitions for us since he arrived, and he's been a threat. I don't think the system's helped him out all the time this season because of the fact that we've had to play narrow because we haven't replaced Jordan Graham, and then we got Mustafa Carriel in, and then he was just running into some form and giving us some width with Danny Lloyd, and then he got injured. Alex McDonald came back, started running into some form. He got injured. So it's always been a bit of a sort of, I don't know, a bit of a hodgepodge, and it changes from week to week. And I've laughed on plenty of these preview shows with other fans and said last season with the fan hub app, it was easy to get 11 out of 11 with Gills, especially after Christmas. It was the same 11 every single week, bar one. And that was very rare. Whereas this season, it's only been in the last sort of month that we've been managing to get almost a settled 11. But whether that's because it's the best 11 available or because it's the only 11 available, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. Like I say, I can't wait to get inside Hillsbrough and have a look at, it's a proper football stadium. I know it's looking a bit battered and bruised now. Like all of us that get to a certain age, it probably needs a bit of work, but I'd rather go to football stadiums like that, similar to like Fratton Park, where it's, it's 4 stands. It's not just a bowl that we get with all these modern stadiums, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but there's more character with these types of arenas, and I can't wait to make the trip up, and fingers crossed it's just not that hour and a half in the middle that ruins my whole day again. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Right, John, it's been a real pleasure. Really enjoyed that. That's a load of really good information for Gills fans regarding the Owls. Gills fans, go and check John out on Twitter. I will put his details in the description at the bottom of the video. Please comment down below. Let us know your score predictions on YouTube. You can do that down there. Don't forget to find us on Twitter, Instagram, obviously YouTube, and also Facebook. We'll be back Saturday for a match day live with Boz. And don't forget, if you are looking to lose weight and play football with like-minded individuals, then go and check out Man v Fat Football. And if you use the code Gills in the Blood, you will get a massive discount on your subscription. It will only cost you £1. Right, enjoy your Thursday evening. Tomorrow is Friday. We are very close to the weekend. We will see you on Saturday. I think over 600 tickets have been sold, so it should be a good away following. We will make some noise. But until then, up the Gills.